Welcome to another edition of the Madison View. My name is Ralph Scott. As I promised, I'm going to go into the Bill of Rights, since a lot of the January 6th protesters, that was their major concern, was the Democrats were trampling all over the Bill of Rights. And like I said, in my opinion, if you accuse somebody of something so major, you need to be basing something like that on facts, because basically you're accusing someone of treason, and that's a pretty steep accusation, or a pretty serious accusation. So here we go. I'm going to step on that third rail of the Republican politics, which is this one right here, Second Amendment of the Constitution of the United States. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Okay. Now, put this up. From what I read, I misread the article or something. I could see where some of this complaint is. Supposedly, unless I read it wrong, there is a judge out there somewhere that said that the Second Amendment doesn't guarantee that the people can have guns. And actually, he's wrong, in my opinion. Well, first of all, I agree with the Second Amendment. First of all, it's well written, especially for the time, and this is also where I think a lot of misconception and a lot of the spin that the Republican Party is able to place on the Second Amendment is because the factor of time involved in all political decisions that were made during the time the Second Amendment to the Constitution was wrote, or written, however you want to say it. We didn't really have a true standing army, not big enough to protect this country. So giving the people right to bear arms was actually the redundant form of the militia, which is how the United States really started to fight its revolution, as people came together. Farmers, gardeners, lawyers, doctors, whatever, came together and formed units and fought the British, of course. So by us having weapons, it was basically our first line or our second line in national defense. Okay, not only that, during that time frame, there was rabies. There was no vaccinations whatsoever. Rabies was rampant. And you get out in the wild frontier, the only way to protect your children, of course, i.e. protect your family, was to have a gun. Okay, and this is where the line becomes a little bit convoluted. Is they're taking the past time, the past year's time stamp, which I just explained, it was a way to protect your family, and trying to transpose it on today's timeline, which is not necessary to have a gun to protect your family. So let's back up and continue down the path of when that was, when it was first passed. Not only did you need to protect your family, but you also needed to feed yourself, because, you need to hunt for game and everything to produce food. It wasn't all of it. You could raise cows and everything like that, but still, there were some people, they had no other way of feeding themselves. They had to go out and shoot the game, to feed themselves. So was this a part of what it took to make our nation secure? Basically, that Second Amendment was a national security amendment that protected this country and kept our society intact. Like I said, and it's just like, I feel like the same way today as far as the right of the people to bear arms. In my opinion, it is our second line of defense and our national security, because we as citizens of the United States control this country. We run it. We run it through our vote, and if somebody was to invade this country, we would control it through our guns, because not only would they have to beat our military, but they're going to have to take out everybody in this country in order to take over this country. The Second Amendment of the United States Constitution is as much as a national security amendment as it is just a Bill of Rights, as in just like a statement saying people can own guns. It's just as much for our own national security as anything else. And I understand how in a modern society that can be misinterpreted, and how people actually having a heart and love can convolute everything. And this is where I'm going to bring it in today's society. Okay, in today's society, it's not really necessary to have a gun to protect your family. Everybody, well, we have security cameras, fences, there's all kinds of things. You do not need a gun to protect your family. Okay, and not only that, I'm not a law enforcement officer. I don't understand law. I'm not a lawyer, etc. I'm not any of that thing right there. But as far as I know, you can't just shoot somebody if there's a break in your house or whatever. But, from what little bit I understand, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But from what little bit I understand, it's kind of a Christian tradition to where if somebody screws up, you kind of give them a second chance. So if someone's breaking in your house and you don't shoot them, 10 years from now, they straighten up and they become a very productive member of society and can do good things. I mean, it's a good Christian tradition to kind of forgive someone, so that's kind of in there too, and I think that's kind of been forgot about by some people. But, and like I said, and with this to protect your family thing, with today's time stamp on it, of course, the radical right have taken this right to bear arms to the other extreme, to where they want people walking down the street with a gun on their hip or the shoulder or whatever. It's not necessary in today's society. First of all, when you're out and about doing your shopping or whatever, and you come across somebody with a gun, the first thing you do is come almost like kind of stop in your tracks and look, oh my God, a gun. It stresses you. It takes your mind off of what you're trying to do for that day. You are actually intimidating people around you with that gun, and there's no need to do that. There's no need whatsoever to do that. Because probably over 97 to 99.9% of the people would never harm you. So you don't really, in my opinion, have the right to open carry a gun in a retail facility or something like that. It's just not, in my opinion, it's not a good idea. Because not only you're scaring people, you're scaring children. This is not very realistic in modern society. Now, back in the days when it took a hunt, a kid would come up to you who's carrying a rifle, and the first thing I would think, oh, you're going to go shoot squirrels or something. Nowadays, what is a gun used for? To shoot people. When you watch the news and everything, I mean, what other reason have you got that gun for? You don't have it on your hip in Walmart to go out and hunt. You've got it in there on your hip to intimidate someone, say, don't fuck with me. That simple. You're trying to intimidate someone. That's what a police officer has when he has a gun on his hip. It's designed for intimidation. So y'all are carrying this way too far out to the extreme, in my opinion. Okay. Now, gun control. I know a lot of people on the far right, of course, do not like gun control, but it has its merits. First of all, it's meant to keep track of a gun sold to someone. First of all, if they were involved in a crime with that gun, whoever it is, whether it got stolen or not, they can trace the person who purchased the gun. And they can trace if there was a police report filed, if the gun was stolen, if he loaned it to someone else, something like that. In other words, they have a line of possibility to track the gun back to find the suspect that shot people. So, and like I said, in modern society, when you think about guns, and 90% of the people who've never been exposed to guns are only going to think about what they see on the news. Mass shootings, killing innocent people, innocent children in school, innocent people in workplaces, innocent people in malls, grocery stores. You just pick it. It's all related around hate. And this is where I'll take the next thing. And yes, I think gun control is actually a good thing. Not only is it based on a good sound judgment, but yes, it takes into account that those are innocent people that are dying. And it's a gun that kills them. Yes, a person uses the gun to kill them, but if that person would not have the gun, then they would not be able to shoot them. I'm not saying it wouldn't prevent them from doing any killings, but it would prevent them from doing, it would really prevent a lot of these mass shootings if we took the guns out of the right people's hands. Okay. Now, and how I propose to do that, and like I said, this is a theory on my part, is that you go back and you do a lot of research on crime and everything and read into it, and you find out that I don't remember the exact percentage because I forgot it right off the top of my head, but most of the people who are in jail for murder have a psychotic disorder. They're psychotics. They're sociopaths. What are you going to say? They're in that psychotic disorder category. So and quite a few of them are mild too. They weren't extremely psychotic, or I don't know how you would say that. It wouldn't be psychotic. I think it is psychotic. I can't remember the exact name for sure, but the crazy people. You know what I'm saying? I don't mean somebody who's going to a psychotic episode. I think that's called. I can't remember. I think I might have my word wrong there, but yeah, y'all don't understand. They're psycho. They kill people. Researchers have found that that's one of the prevalent mental illnesses that are in there. That of people who kill, that's the prevalent mental illness. So, and they've also found, discovered that, people that don't have a good family structure, basically a mother and father, that they're raised by a single mother or a single father, they don't have a good family structure, generally get in trouble before they're 25. Okay. So you take all those things together and coalesce them together, and you administer a test to our children when they're 14 and say 17 years old. And you come up with enough data, by coming to a consensus of what kind of test, what kind of flags you want the test to show by consensus. And you flag those people, right, who test in that category. And you send that information into the gun control system. And right away, you don't do anything with it. You wait until you get enough data, okay, to figure out, can we find out 75% of the people who are going to shoot somebody before they ever buy a gun? Because you take the data from the people who committed the crime, they all fall in a red flag category. 75% of them fall in that red flag category. So therefore, you can use that. And against, you can stop a person from owning a gun once you get enough data, because it's scientifically backed. Is it perfect? No. Is it infringing upon someone's right to own a gun? Yes. But we as a society have a responsibility to ourselves and just each other in the world to try to gain control of a problem. And this is a problem, and it's killing innocent people. And by having a red flag, if the person, once all the data comes in, you find out the red flags, the person comes in to purchase a gun and applies for a permit. The person looks it up on the computer and say, you're in the red flag category. I cannot sell you a gun. They're going to say, well, I didn't commit a crime. I said, sorry, it's just a red flag category. You need to go talk with your lawyer or your doctor or something like that to figure this out. I think it could possibly help our society probably a little bit more than we realize. And I went over a little too long, so I would like to say good night. Good night.